Hey guys, it's Vi. Welcome back to my channel. If this is the very first time you've been here, hi, hello, I'm Vi. Welcome to my channel once again. My channel has a kind of a lot of stuff on here. There's no rhyme and reason, so to speak. I have gaming videos, I have cooking videos, I have vlogs, and I'm kind of wanting to dabble a little bit into something else called like booktube, I guess, for lack of better. Reading books, giving reviews on things, speaking your mind, and kind of going over some stuff. Well, I had a very wonderful May, so I have been kind of trying to do things that I want to do in my spare time, not things that other people want me to do or things that people think I should be, trying out or whatever, but genuinely things that I want to do. And I have a passion for reading. I love to read. I love to immerse myself into different worlds, and I don't know, books are magical, they're fun. My whole family likes to read. I do a lot of reading out loud to my family. Tons of different book genres. I'm not really super picky, though I do tend to read a lot of romance novels. Part of the reason for reading a lot of romance novels is that I have a book depot that I go to at the library, and it's a give and take, and I literally take 20, 30 books, and when I'm done with them, I bring them all back and I trade them and I get new ones. And some of the more common books that you find there, or in any garage sale, if you've gone garage sailing, you find a lot of romance novels. So I end up with tons of romance novels. But anyways, guys, I wanted to do this video because I finished a record amount of books. I have never read this many books in 1 month, ever, and I thought it'd be fun to show you the books I read and just kind of break down, talk to you about what I thought and all that other garbage about them, because I was excited. Guys, I read 12 books in May, and they're all over 200 pages, easily. Some of these are, 300 and 400 pages. 200 is probably like the smallest book that I've got, and that's 12 books in May, which is only 31 days. I can't remember. I don't have my calendar, and I don't remember those things, so that's a lot of books to read. So I wanted to kind of go through the books I read and tell you a little bit about them. So the first book, I have them in order of me reading them. The first book I read here is called May the Best Man Win, and it is by Mira Lynn Kelly. So as you can see, it is definitely a used book. It's got marks on here, and it's the spine is broken. It's not beautiful. Most of my books are like this. There's very few that I keep. I think in the last 6 months, I've maybe kept 3 books, because if I do really enjoy books that I find at the Home Depot, please, at the book depot at the library, I keep them. But then I also buy books, and if I don't like them, I take those in, so it's kind of a wash. Anyways, this book right here, I will read you the synopsis on the back so you guys can see what I was reading, and I will tell you a little bit more in depth about what I thought, etc. So it says, Jace Foster can't believe his bad luck. He's been paired with the she-devil herself for his buddy's wedding, Emily Klein of the miles-long legs and killer smile. She may be sitting in a bridesmaid's dress, but there's no way he's falling for her. Again. They can barely stand each other, but given how many of their friends are getting married, they'll have to play nice, at least when they're in company. Once they're alone, more than just gloves come off, as Jace and Emily discover their chemistry is combustible, and there may be something to this enemies to lovers thing after all. So, overall, I will tell you that this kind of follows your standard love story. It's fairly predictable. I'm sure you can figure out how this is going to end. But I like these books because it is those happily ever afters, or it is those books that are predictable, that you're like, oh, this is going to be so cute. I mean, they have all their turmoil and all this stuff going on, but in the end, everything's going to pan out. This is not a series book. It's just a standalone book. Some of their banter I am not too keen on. I don't do well with sarcasm, and I don't particularly care for like a lot of a lot of fighting and things like that. I don't find those enjoyable to read. So there was some of that in here. So if you're not into major conflict or, backstabby type conversations and that kind of stuff, this is not the book for you. But overall, I think it was pretty cute. And it was, let me see exactly how many pages, guys. I don't think this even has any fancy anythings. So we're sitting at 339 pages for May the Best Man Win. So basically what it is there is this couple that isn't a couple, Jace and Emily. Was that her name? Hold on. Yeah, Jace and Emily. So they have like all these friends that are getting married. I'd say there's at least 5 or 6 different weddings that they go to, and each of them happens to be either the maid of honor or in the bridal party, period. they're both like major components, and all their friends are like, oh, but you guys would be so cute. They had one episode of sorts where they kind of got together and then they panicked thinking this was a terrible idea. And a lot of times reading this, I was kind of like, okay guys, this is where, like, you know, when you're reading and you're like, this is where it should end. Like, I feel like this is pretty good. Like, this would make a good ending. It did that multiple times in this book. But anyways, that's enough rambling about this book, May the Best Man Win by Myra Lynn Kelly. I'm going to move on to another one. But overall, this one, I can't say I wouldn't recommend it, but it's not my favorite book. So if you're looking for a quick read, it's not bad. Not bad at all. So, moving on, we have something that is a completely different book. This one is called A Court of Thorns and Roses, and it is by Sarah J. Maas. Right there. This one I saw a lot of people reading, and I saw some reviews on it. I was really selective at the reviews I watched before I started reading it. I think I saw one from my friend Sephi's. She posts things on Instagram, so I saw a couple things here, and she's like, oh my gosh, it's amazing, it's a wonderful series. This is a series, by the way, guys. There are multiple books. This is the first one. We bought this for my daughter quite some time ago. Because we thought it sounded interesting, and she never had read it yet. And I thought, you know what? I'm seeing a lot of buzz on the internet about this. I kind of want to check it out and read it, so I'm going to read the back of it so you guys can get kind of an overview of sorts. It says, when 19-year-old huntress Feyre kills a wolf in the woods, a beast-like creature arrives to demand retribution. Dragged to a treacherous magical land she knows only from legends, Feyre discovers that her captor is not an animal, but Tamlin, one of the lethal immortal fairies who once ruled their world. As Feyre dwells on his estate, her feelings for Tamlin transform from icy hostility into a fiery passion that burns through every lie and warning that she's been told about the beautiful, dangerous world of the Fae. But an ancient wicked shadow over the fairylands is growing, and Feyre must find a way to stop it, or doom Tamlin and his world forever. So, this book for me was a little hard to get into. I don't read an awful lot of fantasy, and I don't know. I just found like the first few chapters, I'm going to say until I was at least chapter 8, or maybe even as far as chapter 18, maybe 15, 18, before I actually got to the point where I needed to know what happened next. So up until that point, I could have read a chapter or a few pages and put it down and walked away. And whether I finished it or I didn't finish it, it wouldn't have mattered at the time. But as soon as I got to those chapters, I can't remember exactly which one, but as soon as I got to those chapters, it was a race to the finish. I couldn't put it down. It hooked me in. It just took a lot longer than I would have normally thought, because I felt like I was quite a bit through the book before anything happened. Because see here, if I go up all the way up to about chapter 18, chapter 18 is about it's over 100 pages. It's like 150 or 175 pages in, and that was about when I started getting hooked and invested in the characters. So, I mean, it was pretty good, and I was tempted to read multiple to finish the series, but at the same time, this as a standalone book was fine. Like, I was happy with the ending. It was okay. It wasn't the best. I've read better fantasy, but I will give Sarah J. Maas, I like her imagery. It was easy to see the world around what she was talking about, and it was a pleasant read overall. Like I said, the first few chapters I was having a hard time getting into the book, but after I got to that, it got, like I said, a race to the finish. It was really pretty good. And so I don't know. I haven't read anything, and I haven't watched any reviews on future books. Just this one, but like I said, there are more, and I think the latest one just came out maybe last month or something, so it's still fairly new. So if you're looking for a fantasy series that has to deal with humans and fairies, not bad, not bad. Okay, so here is another one that I read. This one is called The Lady Traveler's Guide to Larceny with a Dashing Stranger. Say that 10 times fast. And it is by Victoria Alexander. So this book was actually one that came in my, I joined this club for a very short time. It was a book club. I think it was like the Reader's Choice or something. I don't know. They sent me a thing and they said, okay, we'll give you 4 free books. And then the next month they'll send you books. If you don't want them, you cancel. I didn't cancel in time. This is one of the books that I had gotten. And honestly, it now has a place on my shelf. This book was so incredibly cute. It was so much fun to read, and I loved the story. Like, I absolutely love this. I loved the banter between the characters. You really fell in love with the characters, and that is something I feel passionate about when I'm reading my books. I really like to fall in love with one, two, or a few. If I can fall in love with just one character, it changes the entire book for me, and it makes me want to read more. This one, I guess basically the book title is really more Larceny with a Dashing Stranger, because there are a lot more books that are the Lady Traveler's Guides. It's a group of these quirky old ladies. I don't know, it was really funny. It was funny to read. I'm going to read the back of this so you can get a feel for what I was reading. It says, a lady should never be obliged to think of matters financial, but when Lady Wilhelmina Bascombe's carefree, extravagant lifestyle vanishes with the demise of her husband, her only hope lies in retrieving a family treasure, a Renaissance masterpiece currently in the hands of a cunning art collector in Venice. Thankfully, the Lady Traveler Society has orchestrated a clever plan to get Willie to Europe, leading a tour of mothers and daughters and one curiously attractive man. Dante Auguste Montague's one passion has long been his family's art collection. He's finally tracked a long-lost painting to the enchanted Lady Bascombe. Convinced that the canvas had been stolen, he will use any means to reclaim his birthright, including deception. But how long before pretend infatuation gives way to genuine desire? Willie and Dante know that they're playing with fire in the magical moonlit city. Their common quest could compromise them both or lead them to a happily ever after. I highly recommend this book because I thoroughly enjoyed it. Like I said, the banter was good and just everything, the characters. I think I fell in love with both main characters, and there was at least one other person that I really enjoyed when they popped up in the story, just listening to them speak. Like listening to them speak. You know what I mean. But anyways, this book was great. Like, it was great. I give this one, literally, a 5-star. I would read this again, and I am not one to read books again. I think there are maybe a handful of books, maybe 5 total, that I have read multiple times. And this book, I think, is going to get read again. I'm leaving it up here, right behind me. Maybe it's over here. Yeah, right here. I have a small bookshelf with stuff on it, and I have literally a handful of books, and this one has added to it. So if you're looking for a fun read that is a sweet story, that has surprises, because I'm not going to go into it because I don't want to tell you anything. It's got surprises. I am huge on Venice and Italy itself, and it was wonderful because I was taking a trip with them, and it was really fun. Seeing the sights, it was really great. So if you're looking for a book that's fun to read, and is a quick read, it's a love story, it's got some intrigue, it's got some mystery to it, I highly recommend this one. Absolutely. 5 out of 5 stars. I usually don't give book stars, but this one, 5. Alrighty, here's another one for you folks. This one is called Crimson Veil. It is an Otherworld novel by Yasmine Galenorn. So this one was also at the Book Depot at the library, and like I said, most of the books there are romance novels. You don't find stuff that like this very often. So literally, don't judge a book by its cover. I picked it up because I thought the cover looked pretty cool. Alright, so I'm going to read you the back. And I picked it up for 2 reasons. 1, I thought the cover was cool looking, and 2, I thought it might be a quirky story, and like I said, most of the stuff that's there are romance novels, so when I see something that isn't, I'm keen to jump on it, because I would like to read something other than romance, for free. Yes. Okay. It says, we're the D'Artego sisters, savvy half-human, half-fae operatives for the Otherworld Intelligence Agency. My sister Camille is a wicked good witch with 3 gorgeous husbands. Delilah is a 2-faced werecat and a death maiden. And me? I'm Manoli, a vampire married to a scorching hot werepuma. And right now, we're facing enemies on all sides. It's been a long and devastating week. Back in Otherworld, war has decimated the elfin city of Elvenesk. Our father has gone missing, and Shadowwing has managed to obtain another spirit seal. On the home front, somebody burned down my bar, the Wayfarer, killing 8 people, including a friend. To make matters worse, we still haven't found a way to stop Lowstar Radcliffe, the demon in charge of a supernatural corporate power grab. He's attempting to waken Suvika, the lord of vice and corrupt businessmen, and we have to stop him. Our enemies are closing in on all sides, and this time there's no place to hide. So, reading that and looking at the cover, I thought, might be kind of an interesting read. I'm going to be totally honest with you guys. This book was so incredibly hard for me to get through. Like, it was so hard. It only has, my friends, it is a 318-page book, and I almost legitimately struggled through every single page. The only reason that I can tell you that I 100% finished this book is because I told myself, if I start it, I'm going to finish it, and I'm going to find out how many books I can read in a month. If I hadn't have kind of given myself that challenge for May, for the month, I wouldn't have finished it. So I found that the characters were really hard to kind of connect with. There were lots and lots of these hybrids. So there was the werepuma, and there was a fey vampire, and they had all these. But even so, they didn't stick to their, kind of their cliche, vampires. They have this kind of mentality, and they tend to do these types of things. And werewolves, they act this way, and they do these kinds of things. Nobody was predictable at all, which I guess in one case that would be considered okay. But I found it more irritating because I couldn't connect with the characters, and I was so confused. So after doing some research, after I read this book, I actually realized that this is one out of literally hundreds or whatever of books in this same world. So if I would have read the first book or some of the more early stuff to fall in love with the world itself and to understand what was going on a little bit, it probably would have helped. I would have known the characters a little bit more, because when I started to read this one, it was like you were expected to already know who these characters were, and maybe you do. Maybe in previous editions of these books, you do, because this is an otherworld novel. So she's got a whole bunch, and she has a bunch of different lines, and I think they're all connected in this world. So I don't know. I found it really confusing. I spent most of this book either bored, confused, or just like trying to get through it. So I guess bored is probably the best one. So in all honesty, guys, I cannot recommend this to anybody, and I would never read it again. I picked up 3 more books by her because of the cover and because I saw that this author, and I thought, hey, I picked up The Crimson Veil. If it's good, then I have more from her that I can read. If it's not, I'm going to take them back. I put them all back in the giveaway bag because this one was painful. The next book I've got for you, my friends, is this one. It is called For One More Day, and it is written by Mitch Albom. So I don't know if anybody has read this book called Tuesdays with Morrie. It actually says something about it up here. It says it's from the author of Tuesdays with Morrie. Now, I did read Tuesdays with Morrie, and it was pretty good. It was a more realistic. So was this one. So this is not, I guess this is considered fiction, but it is kind of based on true people, true stories, and it's not what I would consider a pleasure read. So if you want something to make you feel good when you finish reading it, this is not the kind of book for you. But this is more like real life, real experiences, that kind of stuff. So this entire book is like 197 pages. And for the 197 pages, it literally takes place in a matter of minutes, and some of it in literally real-time seconds. So I don't know, it's kind of like if you're faced with one thing, the rest of the book is everything that runs through your mind, and the things that you see, and the things that you hear, and the things that you experience. It was a good book. It was a good read. It was a very quick read because yes, it is, like I said, 197 pages, but the pages are small and the writing is big. Like I said, it's not a feel-good book, but it was good when I finished. It was a good book itself. I wouldn't read it again, but it was good. It was kind of like Tuesdays with Morrie. I wish that, if you've read it, you should let me know in the comments if you've read Tuesdays with Morrie, because it's the same kind of thing, where it's like, that was a good book, but I will never read that again. I don't know how to explain that any differently, but anyways, it's basically, I will read you the back, and I'll just leave it at that, because I'm pretty sure it tells you quite a bit. So, it says, if you had the chance, just one chance, to go back and fix what you did wrong in life, would you take it? And if you did, would you be big enough to stand it? Mitch Albom, in this new book, once again demonstrates why he's one of my favorite writers, a fearless explorer of the wishful and magical. He's also a devout believer in the power of love. For One More Day will make you smile, it'll make you wistful, it'll make you blink back tears of nostalgia. But most of all, it will make you believe in the eternal power of a mother's love. Hands down, that describes this book. There doesn't need to be anything else said from me. So if that sounds like a book that you're interested in, I would recommend this to you. Like I said, it's not a feel-good, happy, I love that book and I would recommend it to everybody, but when I finished it, it was a good book all in itself. The next book I have is a Debbie Macomber book. It's called Dakota Born. So this is another love story, and it has been used. I mean, the spine on this, guys, it's been used. I have read countless stories from Debbie Macomber. Most of hers that I have read, there are love stories, but most of them I've read from her are like Christmas setting love stories, and this one was not Christmas. And I saw this and I thought, let's check this out. So I will read the back, and then I will talk about it. So it says, Buffalo Valley, North Dakota. Like so many small towns, it's dying. Stores are boarded up, sidewalks cracked, houses wanting a coat of paint. But despite it all, there's a spirit of hope here, of defiance. The few people left still in Buffalo Valley are fighting for their own. Lindsay Snyder is a newcomer. She's an outsider, even though she spent childhood vacations here. Now she returns to see the family house again, to explore family secrets, and to reevaluate her life. To her own amusement, she decides to stay. Her decision marks a new beginning for Buffalo Valley and for Lindsay Snyder, who discovers in the broken little town the love and purpose that she's been seeking. So, basically, she goes back to her childhood home in Dakota, and she is trying to integrate herself into this very small town that has, like, maybe 300 people, and that's being generous in it. It's like everybody knows everybody, everybody's grown up together. They're looking for a school teacher, and she is taking a different turn in her life, and she decides to move to this itty bitty dinky tiny town. And there are some people that, because she's not born there, they say, okay, well, you just don't understand how it is, and you're trying to change things, and it's never going to be that way. And there is a dashing stranger that she meets, and it's a love story. We'll just leave it at that. It's a love story, and it's really super cute. It's about a girl going back to her childhood home and discovering secrets. There's a little bit mystery in here. There's a little bit things that you think that something is going to happen, and then the book takes a turn and it goes somewhere completely different. So this is a book that I think I literally finished this one in a day. Like, I started reading in the morning, and I guarantee you, by the end of the day, I was done. This isn't a book I'm going to keep, but it was a wonderful story. Like I said, I very, very seldom keep books, so the fact that I kept one is crazy. I usually just give them all away. I usually just donate all of them. But it was a super, super cute book. Debbie Macomber did not leave me wanting. She delivered. This was a great book, and I don't know. I've read her stuff before, and after reading this, I was like, that's why I read her books. I enjoy them. So this one is super cute. Classic love story. If you want something that has a happy ending, something that makes you feel good after you read it, and something that's just a really light read that you could hang out in the bathtub with a glass of wine and some candles, there you go. The next book I've got for you guys is this one. It's a Nicholas Sparks book, which is usually a tearjerker. This is called The Best of Me. If I'm not mistaken, this one is actually a movie now. I think I think they turned this into a movie. So I have read countless books by Nicholas Sparks, and I absolutely love every book by Nicholas Sparks that I have read, except for this one. So I had very high hopes when I picked it up because Nicholas Sparks. And I figured, okay, it's going to be one of these books where if you've never read Nicholas Sparks, basically he's bittersweet. It's like, it looks like it's going to be the most happily ever after. Near the end of the book, tragedy strikes, and then when all is said and done, that was the greatest love story ever. That's the kind of books he writes. So I was expecting it. I was like, okay, that's going to happen here. And it did. And it did take a minor turn that I didn't see necessarily. But overall, I thought that this book was pretty dry. I thought, honestly, that he took about 3 or 4 of his previous books and just threw them all into one. I didn't get a feel for, like, I didn't fall in love with the main characters even. And it was lacking. Like, I didn't enjoy it. I thought it was missing so many things, and I felt like he just, like I said, took 3 or 4 of his other books and threw them all into one. And I'm sure I'm going to get filleted for that, because especially if this is turned into a movie, I'm sure there's some people that are absolutely cuckoo and in love with The Best of Me. I'm not one of them. I just wasn't impressed. So, I don't know. I read it. It was okay. But as far as Nicholas Sparks, I was disappointed. That's just honest. Alrighty, folks. I have this one. This is by Jodi Thomas, Sunrise Crossing. And this is another one of those books that I got from the book, I don't know, books per month little thing that I had done for a very short time. I'm going to read it to you real quick so you can see what I was reading. It says, Yancey Gray is slowly putting his life back together after serving time for petty theft. As he rebuilds an old house, he finally has a sense of stability, but he can't stop thinking of himself as just an ex-con. Until one night, when he finds a mysterious dark-haired beauty hiding in his loft. But who is she? And what secret is she protecting? The art gallery Parker Lacey manages is her life. She has no time for friends, and certainly not lovers. But when her star artist begs Parker for help, she finds herself in a pickup truck headed for the sleepy town of Crossroads, a truck driven by a strong, silent cowboy. Gabe Snow has been a drifter since he left Crossroads at 17 after a violent incident. When he accepts a job in his hometown, he'll have to decide whether he can put the worst night of his life behind him and build a future in the community that raised him. So once again, this is similar to like Dakota Born. It's in a very small town, but it is steeped with mystery. I don't want to tell you because little bits and pieces come out along the course of the book, and I don't want it to ruin it for you. This is another one of these cutesy little love stories. You can tell from the picture right here, guys. It's a little cute cowboy romance, you know, I guess is what they classify these as. It was a very quick read, very cute. There's not a whole lot I can say about it. The back pretty much said it. This guy is living there, and he's trying to rebuild his life, and there's like a runaway girl that he finds hanging out in his attic, and they start a friendship and a relationship, and things build, and then secrets of stuff come out, and that's what I don't want to tell you because it will ruin the book for you. So I really can't talk about this book. I can tell you that it was really cute and that I read it, and it's by Jodi Thomas, and it's called Sunrise Crossing, but that's about it. Alrighty, the next book I have up here is another used book, clearly, because it's been written on. It says by Rachel Gibson, and it's called Simply Irresistible. It is not a writer that I have ever read before, and it's gotten quite a bit of love since 1998, it says on the cover. It's been written on. So I'll read you the back. It says, Georgianne Howard leaves her fiancé at the altar when she realizes that she can't marry a man old enough to be her grandfather, no matter how rich he is. Hockey superstar John Kowalski unknowingly helps her escape, and only when it's too late does he realize that he's absconded with his boss's bride. This bad boy isn't looking to be anybody's savior but his own. Still, a long night stretches ahead of them, and a night too sultry to resist temptation. 7 years later, Georgianne and John meet again. She's on her way to becoming Seattle's domestic darling, and he's past his hell-raising days. Shocked to learn that he has a daughter, John's determined to be part of her life. Georgianne has loved John since the moment she jumped into the car. But will he risk the wrath of his boss and one final chance at glory to prove that this time his love will be everlasting? Guys, this was super cute. My favorite character, hands down, was Mr. Kowalski. Howard? No, what was his name? John? I think it was John Kowalski. He was a quirky sort. He was kind of a, I don't know, for lack of better, he was kind of a boob, but I liked it. Like, this book, it kept me reading. Like, from the minute she takes off, Rachel Gibson takes off with a bang. Like, it was good. I don't know, it had a quick hook, and I was reading it right away. I was rooting for the couple. I was like, do it, do it, do it. I mean, I don't know. It was pretty cute, guys, and I really don't know what to say about this one other than what was written on the back. Sometimes when they write their synopsis on the back, it's like nail on the head, exactly what I would have said, what the book is about, and sometimes it's very vague and you have to explain yourself. This one in a nutshell is pretty much it. So, you know, she's supposed to marry this really old guy because she's looking for a leg up in life, and she thought she found it, and she was excited because she's like, and he is rich and whatever, but I don't think she had feelings for the guy. So she runs out, leaves him at the altar, jumps into a random car, happens to be John Kowalski's car. They have a one-night stand, and he goes, I can't do this because you were supposed to marry my boss. And so they say, okay, we're not going to do this. Years later, he finds out that that one night stand led to a child between the two of them, so he's fighting for custody, kind of thing, and fighting for them to be together, and it was a whole web of tangled lies and other stuff, and it was actually quite entertaining. So there you have it, Rachel Gibson. It's called Simply Irresistible. Pretty cute, fast read. I think there was a little bit of language in here, but otherwise it wasn't too bad. The romance sex scenes, whatever, weren't too graphic. It wasn't like, oh my gosh. You know, so cute little read. If you're looking for a quick, fast love story, not bad. Not bad. It was pretty good. The next book I have right here, my friends, is called The Spanish Bride, and it is by Laurien Gardner. Dun dun bum. I am huge on the Tudor era, like King Henry. I've watched the Tudors. I have the movies up there in my little bookshelf behind me. I fell in love with the Tudors because of the movie. It's like a TV show, The Tudors. I fell in love with that and started reading a bunch of books. I've read The White Queen by someone else, and I saw this one. I thought, you know what? This is right up there with the era that I'm interested in, and I don't normally like to read history books or anything that has to do with history. I like historical romance is probably my favorite type of romance to read, and some modern romance, if I'm honest. Anyways, so I usually don't pick up these kind of books. Like, I would never read it. If I saw this book maybe 5 years ago, I wouldn't have picked it up. But I have kind of fallen in love with King Henry and all the Tudor lines and that kind of era. This one, it follows Catherine of Aragon, and it follows her, how things happened for her. She was the queen. She was married to King Henry, and it kind of follows her, and it is one other person. I'm going to read the back. It says, Estrella de Montoya is maid of honor to Catherine of Aragon. So, follows her, the maid. The Spanish princess betrothed to Arthur, Prince of Wales. Traveling away from home for the first time, Estrella shares her mistress's vision of England as a land of chivalric knights and courtly love. Her heart flutters at the bright prospects before them as the English rejoice at Catherine's arrival. Decades later, Estrella has learned from bitter experience that poetic legends are not to be confused with real life, but Catherine, long married to Arthur's brother Henry, clings to her illusions even when Henry, desperate for a male heir, seeks to set her aside for a younger woman. At great danger to herself, Estrella remains loyal to her lady, the true queen. Through it all, Estrella remains uniquely positioned to witness Catherine's triumphs and tragedies as they both risk everything against a king to whom human life, let alone chivalry, is nothing compared to his own personal desires. So if you have any knowledge whatsoever of the Tudors era at all, it wasn't bad. It was the writing itself was a little difficult to fall in love with. It was hard to read it. But if you have any knowledge of this particular time period or these key players in this book, because it's based off of real people, some of it's pretty spot on. It was kind of neat to see their take on it because everybody has a slightly different take, of course, because it's not an autobiography. It's still considered a work of fiction. I don't know, it was kind of neat seeing different perspectives. The writing itself was kind of hard to read sometimes because it jumped around a lot, and it kind of went from present day to, well, not present day, but present day for this one. So it was like it went from the beginning part, and then it jumped all the way to decades later, and then it would go back and forth, and it was hard to tell which era exactly, which part of their life we were reading about. So that was a little bit confusing because, like I said, it would go from when, the queen was, young, like 14 or, 17 or however young she was. And then it would jump years ahead to when she was like basically on her deathbed kind of age, or, at least in her 40s or 50s or something. So it was kind of confusing to go back and forth. And the writing overall, I wasn't engaged with the story necessarily. I was curious to see where the perspectives were going to go, but as far as like fun reading, it wasn't very fun reading. If I wanted to immerse myself in this, I'd probably go back and watch the Tudors. I know that series itself is not 100% accurate, but I enjoyed it a lot more. And I don't know, maybe I don't enjoy to read it like I thought I would. I think I just enjoy to watch it, and I like the drama and the like the court and everything. I don't know. Some of the pictures that were painted in here were pretty good. You could really get a feel for, I don't know, the desolation that they were feeling and stuff. So, I mean, the characters themselves, they were fairly relatable. Like, you could really get a sense for how they were feeling. But, like I said, overall, it was okay. It wasn't really the best read, and it was kind of confusing, jumping back and forth every time. But if you like this era, and you like books like The White Queen, this will probably be something you'd want to read. The next book, guys, is called The Klone and I by Danielle Steele. So, I'm not usually a fan of Danielle Steele books, if I'm completely honest. She's a well-known author, and a lot of people read her for her romance novels, because that's what she writes. I've read a couple of hers, and I've never really been super impressed. I lean more towards the Nora Roberts side. I don't know, I just really favor hers, but enough about that. I picked up this book by Danielle Steele because there weren't any Nora Roberts books on the shelf. And Danielle Steele had like a whole bunch, at least like 3 feet of this bookshelf was Danielle Steele. So I figured I'd pick one up, give her a try again, and see what I thought. This one wasn't a very thick book. It's fairly small, and I thought, you know what? We'll try it. We'll see what happens. So, there's no synopsis written on the back. I had zero clue what I was getting into, my friends. And in one word, I found this book stupid. Let's just put it that way. I was not engaged. I read it because, you know, when you see like a train wreck, you don't want to look, but you can't look away. That's how I felt this book was. This book was one of these things where I was like, oh my gosh, this is so bad, but I can't quit until I know what happens. Like, I have to see how much worse this gets, is basically it for me. In a nutshell, there's this lady, and she gets involved with this stranger. Like, okay, I will give this some redeeming qualities, okay? So the first few chapters were really witty, and they were really funny. There's this lady who is in her 40s, and, you know, her life she thought was great, and she gets blindsided, and her husband leaves her and gets a divorce. She takes off on a vacation, and the first part was super funny. And I thought, okay, Danielle Steele, doing good. After the first few chapters, and she meets this guy, and things get really weird after that, and I am not impressed with it. Basically, the clone is really a clone. I was wondering if the Klone and I meant like the clone as a last name or something. No, it's literally a clone. So this guy, he works in engineering and stuff, and he's a really brilliant person, and he makes a clone of himself that's a machine. And when he leaves to go on business trip, he sends his clone in his place to stay with his girlfriend. And it's really bizarre because she falls in love with both of them, and then she is conflicted because one's a machine and one's a human, and it's really weird, guys. To me, this book, even the ending, it was so stupid. I did not like this book. I'm sorry, Danielle Steele. I'm probably not going to pick up another one of her books for a very long time, or I'm going to be even more selective next time, because this book was just bad. This was bad. It's a train wreck. It was a train wreck. Alrighty, my friends, this is the very last book that I read for May. So this is book number 12. This is another one by Rachel Gibson, and it is called Nothing But Trouble. This book was freaking hilarious. It was a lot of fun. I'm going to read you the back of it. It says, Chelsea Ross's acting career has been a total bust. The closest she has ever come to stardom was her brilliant performance as Pretty Dead Girl #1. But leaving Hollywood to become the personal assistant to a famous hockey player could be her stupidest career move ever. Injured superstar Mark Bressler's glory days are over. The bad boy ex-jock could at least be civil to the pint-sized, pink-haired bombshell whom the Seattle Chinooks hired to be his PA. If Chelsea didn't need the money, she'd be running from the world's biggest jerk as fast as her feet could carry her. Chelsea can deal with Mark's rotten attitude and dark moods. The problem is those biceps and that red-hot bod. And when the bad boy starts to put the moves on her, Chelsea knows it's time she banished him to the penalty box. If only she could resist the kind of trouble he has in mind. So, the very last part that I read about dealing with rotten attitude and all that stuff, that whole last part doesn't really fit with most of the book. Like, that's such a very obscure small bit of it, but the first parts, that's how it is. So she has been hired to be the PA of this very surly, injured ex-hockey player. And their banter between them and his attitude and how she puts him in his place, etc., it was really funny. Their witty banter between each other was great. It was exciting. Classic love story. Things end and pan out how you expect them to. It was very predictable, but it wasn't predictable in a bad way. It was a very fun read. So this one was one of the thicker ones. I think we're into the 400 pages for this one. Let me see. I think anyways. Let me find out. I gotta find out. Of course it stops telling me the page numbers when I need them, my friends. Maybe it doesn't tell me at all. So, oh, here we go. I found them, guys. We are at 354 pages for this one. So I guess it's not quite 400 pages, but it was one of the thicker ones. It also has an excerpt of another book in here. So you could read that one as well, and it would be more. It'd be closer to that 400 pages that I was saying. But anyways, guys, this book itself was super cute. I recommend this one. I liked it. I don't know, it was a turning around type book where you're like, come on, man, get with the program, snap, snap. And it was really cute. So overall, cute book. Very predictable, but not predictable in a bad way. And their banter was super fun. So that's the last book I have for you. It's called Nothing But Trouble, and it's another one by Rachel Gibson. So I read 2 by her in May. And this one was also a book that I picked up from the give and take from the library. So that, my friends, are all 12 books that I read in the month of May, and it was such a fun time. Like, sinking into those books, I spent countless hours hanging out on a blanket in my front yard, soaking up the spring sunshine and just genuinely escaping and having fun when I had some free time. I've been super, super busy here at the house getting 1,000,001 things done, but whenever I had free time, that's what I was doing, and it felt good. It was refreshing to be reading books because I wanted to, not because someone said, hey, you should be doing this. I love doing my vlogs and other stuff, but honestly, this was a riot. If you guys enjoyed going through the list of books I read and hearing what I have to say about them, you should leave me some comments down below, and you should also hit that like button so that I know that this is something you're interested in as well. If you are not subscribed and you want to see either more videos like this or check out my other stuff or be notified when I upload again, hit that subscribe button. It means a lot to me. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed kind of running through all the books that I read for May. I was super proud of myself because I read 12 books, and that's the most I've ever read in a 31 day period, which was absolutely crazy. So, yeah, that's it. I wanted to share my thoughts and show you what I did, and yeah, that's about it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I will see you guys all next time. Mwah! Bye, guys!